Hey, it's Derek Jones, and welcome to another episode of Rare Paintball Guns, where we talk about some of the rare and not so rare paint guns that came from our sport's past. And today I have one of my personal favorites that just really has so much history in paintball. There just can't be one video about these markers. This is an Airgun Designs Automag. I played tournament ball. The vast majority of my tournament paintball, I shot an Automag, almost 10 years. And which was funny because the teams that I played with were predominantly autococker teams. In fact, Dale Price of the Paraplegic Turtles was quite frustrated with me because I much preferred an Automag when he was working with Bud Orr as far as cocker sponsorships, to the point that we had some pretty nasty disagreements over the guns. However, at the time that these came out, they were still teething, but the cool thing about the Automag is it was kind of a trend-setting marker. Compared to the pump guns that had come before it and some of the blowback semis, this was revolutionary. It had a regulator, so it had a controlled volume of air with every shot, and it was a blow forward mechanism, which hadn't been seen before, and is absolutely the granddaddy to pretty much every modern spool valve that's available today. So the story behind the Automag is Tom Kay, the original owner of Airgun Designs, had been working on a pump paint gun called the Panther from about 1985 to 88, 89. I think his original intent was to sell designs to other companies, and he sold the design for the Panther, or I believe what was the Panther, to Direct Connect. And they didn't do anything with it, and because he had a buyback clause in there, he bought it back, and they started working on the gun. And they ended up making a couple versions, and they just weren't happy with it. They weren't happy with the blowback technology, so they developed the blow forward technology and came out with the Automag. They had several versions, and I think the first one, the P4, was available in 1990. This is a level 7 with a power feed and a polymer frame, which leads me, if I remember correctly, I want to say the polymer frames came out in 96 or 97. So this definitely isn't an early Automag. And original Automags would have had a left feed off of here, and they would have had just a black aluminum ball. So this is an aftermarket barrel. My friend, BJ Houston, actually found a bag of guns in his barn that had been sitting there for 10 years, and this happened to be one of them. So he brought them over and said, hey, do some videos on these. Which was great, because my Automags are in a box somewhere, and after 2 moves, I have no idea where they are. I played tournaments with these from about 93 to 2001, 2002, when the Electros started taking over. And I still have several Automags that I have used in the last few years, and I have no trouble using them today. And this design has evolved so much that it is really just, it's a perfect marker in my opinion. They're easy to take down, they're easy to fix, they're easy to diagnose the problems. They have a huge support structure, infinite amount of accessories. It really was a gun that just set the next level for tournament guns. And Tom Kay really was way ahead of his time. So originally, when we were on CO2, interesting enough, when we were using these on CO2, we used to have a lot of problems. The regulator does not like liquid CO2, so we actually used to take before compressed air was really available to everybody, we'd take a 20-ounce anti-siphon tank, we'd run it through 4 feet of hose around the power feed into a modified 3.5-ounce tank, which we basically were using as an expansion chamber, and then we would run that to the regulator to try to keep these from going liquid, because a mag going liquid, it's going to spike, it's going to sputter, it's going to short. So they really don't like liquid. They were designed for compressed air, and the mag use between CO2 and compressed air was just night and day. this regulator spawned a whole generation of advancements in compressed air technology. Air America took this design, basically modified it, slapped it on a tank, and for a long time was the dominant air tank. And it literally was an Automag valve. And there were several copies of this design. In fact, Tom Kay probably should have sued a lot more people. This gun was an absolute legend. It was used by the All-Americans, and it was used by Extreme and a couple other big pro teams back when the autocockers were dominant. And I love them. I still shoot them today. A modern mag with a double trigger and an X valve is as good as anything out there. So let's pull it up and take it apart and take a look at it. Now keep in mind, this mag hasn't been taken apart in 10 years, so it might be in bad shape. I don't know. I haven't really looked at it. So now, when Tom Kay designed this, he actually came out with a feature that I really think didn't get the credit it deserves, and that was the bayonet barrel system. Basically, you turn it a quarter, and the barrel, this one needs to be lubed. These O-rings are really old. You would turn it a quarter, pull it straight out, and the barrel could come off in seconds, which in the 90s, people don't understand how valuable. With your paint consistency constantly changing, a quick field strip marker was really important. And I really do love the bayonet system. The anti-double ball is actually in the Automag barrel. You can see it if you look closely in there. There's a little pin right there. Trying to get you the best angle on that shot. That little pin is the anti-double ball. And they work really well. There's a plastic version of it that's almost as good, but really an ingenious barrel system. And I'm surprised it didn't become the dominant barrel system, because it's a good one. And like I said, the original Automag, this had a straight feed. The power feed was great because it allowed easy cleaning, easy access, and better feed. And it was, like I said, if you blew a ball, get your finger in there, get a swab in there, and you can get that all cleaned out real fast. So the power feed was a big feature in tournament paintball. Okay, let's take it apart. So the mag uses the standard 1/8" Allen wrench for almost everything. This one has microline on it. I'm just going to undo that early. This hasn't been done in a long time. Microline was a big deal when it first came out compared to braided hoses. And this is a more modern Automag for sure. Mid to late 90s because of the polymer frame. And he has some aftermarket grips on it. So. A lot of guys really modified their mags. I pretty much used mine stock. The only thing that I did differently is I was a really big fan of the Smart Parts barrels. I shot a 16-inch barrel, and I really liked it. It was really accurate. And I won more than one-on-one contests with my Automag than any other marker. And people used to just say, oh, they're not as accurate as Cockers. They're not. And I found that not to be true. I had no problem putting ball-on-ball accuracy with a good barrel. I used to shoot RP Sheer Gator Black in a 16-inch All-American barrel, and I would snap people all over the field with my Automag. But the autocrocker crowd really liked to, at the time, they usually liked to tell people that the mag was not as accurate, which I didn't find that to be true, so I don't know that I agree with them. Let me undo this bolt, which is taking forever. Oh my gosh. So these old drop forwards used to be really popular. I think this is basically a rip-off of a Cap Flame. I'm not sure what it is. We used to drop these forward to pull our tank a little bit further forward. So you got the bottom line. And then oh my gosh, that's been in there a while. So this gun was in a bag, and then it was soaked in water. So this gun might actually have some real damage to it. It's going to need to be cleaned completely, no matter what. there was also mouse poop in there, so. All right, got the grip frame off. Come back to that. So, one of the interesting things about the Automag is it used this sear system. Let's see if I can get this off. That's the grip polymer frame, pretty simple, pretty basic. And this is a second generation Automag sear. The first generation was similar on top, but a little bit wider on the bottom. And it uses this pin. What that pin does is it pushes this on-off tube, which allows the air to blow forward, and there's your bolt. So let's take this. We got this and this. And then you've got your bolt. This is an original foamy bolt, so that's awesome. So these foamies we actually would put on this bolt to give it a softer shot when you were shooting fragile paint, or what was considered fragile paint in the day. Today it'd be considered standard paint, but back then it would have been fragile. This cut down on ball breakage. That might be an aftermarket bolt, but I don't know for sure. But I believe that's stock. All right, and that is not stock, whatever that is. Okay, so the regulator just unscrews. So this section is the regulator, and I'm not going to take this completely apart because there's really no point. There's some shims in there, and it has to be greased, and it looks like it's been compressed pretty far. Probably needs a good rebuild. It has one valve, or one cut in the valve. That's the regulator. Now you have this on-off pin and this spring, and then you have this. Sorry, this is the on-off valve. This is the pin in the spring. And then you have, and that's been in there a while. Then you have the actual valve, and there's some O-rings in there. And then there's another O-ring under here, so I'm not going to take that apart. Just really no point. It's actually a pretty simple design. Way ahead of its time, very, very reliable. Treated properly, and Automag was as good as anything that's ever been out there. I have shot more people with Automags than I will shoot with any other gun I own combined. Like I said, this one hasn't been cleaned in like 10 years, so it's pretty old, needs some oil, and I don't have any oil. I got to order some oil. All right, so let's put it back together, and we'll talk about it a little more.
Right there and there.
And there is your field stripped and reassembled level 7 Automag with power feed. Okay, so I've got that reassembled, and I wish I had some air, and I know I have a bunch of rebuild kits, but they're all in storage. I don't know where they are. Great thing about a mag is a quick rebuild kit, O-rings, and you're off and running. They really were the, in my opinion, the premier tournament gun of the 90s. And a lot of people disagree with me. There's a lot of guys that are really big autococker dudes, and I respect that. But the bottom line is, this technology is still really going on. Autococker technology, as far as premier tournament guns, kind of a dead end. It's still there in the classic leagues, and don't get me wrong, I love autocockers. I think they're fun guns. But as far as technology goes, this was light years ahead of its time. So the other thing that I really liked about mags is And some people disagree, but for me, the linear tube sight rail, as far as I was a front guy back then when I was small and fast. Now I'm old and fat. But as a front guy, get down. I had to have a foregrip on my mag. That's why I keep reaching for it. It's not there. You have a foregrip and a little, 68-45, and this gun was as small as it got back in the day, and you were able to throw some pain. In fact, I remember back with the single trigger before the double triggers came out, I actually clocked myself at 7 balls a second. I was stoked, man. That was a big deal. So really a fun gun. If you get a chance to pick one up, I highly recommend it. Modifications that I would absolutely recommend would be the level 10 kit, even an X valve if you can get your hands on one. I do like having double triggers, and I like a foregrip. Freak barrels on these are phenomenal. Just a great gun all the way around. They're available on eBay all the time, and you find them used. I find them at yard sales, and I buy every one I can find. So anyway, if you like the video and if you have something to add, some trivia, some information that I don't, please feel free to add it in the comments. Give us a like, and please, if you like the content, subscribe. I'd also like to hear what you would like to see and talked about, and appreciate your time, and I'll see you guys next.